Shall we start? So I will invite Javier and Elena to make themselves visible. Well, para quienes nos escuchan online, les agradecemos que se hayan conectado. Está la posibilidad de traducción al castellano en la plataforma de Zoom. Hay un icono por el cual ustedes van a acceder a la traducción simultánea de inglés al castellano. Por motivo de la naturaleza de la audiencia, vamos a tener que hacer en inglés acá presencial. Dicho eso, welcome to this workshop. We are having an hybrid event. We are connected as well with a number of research centers and other IP holders around Latin America that are interested in this topic. So we are not alone. You know, we are connected with the rest of the world, as it always should be. First of all, I would like to thank LESI International for allowing us to have this conversation with you. Also, a special thanks to Les Chile, his president is here, that has been encouraging, you know, Les Chile also to participate and take challenges like this workshop. The other point important is who I am, because probably you don't know me. I am Luis Villarroel. I am a lawyer, and I run an IP and public policy organization that we are concerned on implementing a IP in a way that is good for development. So we all know that innovation is very important. Innovation makes, you know, the world, you know, grow. You know, there are really important benefits, you know, for society and the economy. But for innovation to meet this purpose, it has to be visible. When there is an innovation, the people must know that it's an innovation. And also it's very important that people who invest in the innovation or are able to develop has to know what is that innovation. So that is an important challenge. Challenge is how to make innovation, new products, new services, well known by who might be interested in using it. And this is particularly challenging when the innovators are in the developing world. That are farther, you know, from the real big markets and of investors. So that's one challenge. On the other hand, innovation to be, you know, what we expect to be, is that new products and services must be available and accessible everywhere where it's needed, because otherwise you will have two separate worlds, those who have access to innovation and those who don't. So that's also a very important challenge. And that this challenge is more urgent in the case of health products, because the health products, you know, makes the difference between life or death, or how you can carry on your life. So this is a very important challenge. How you make available technology, health-related products. Oh, well, but of course that applies to other technologies, but in particular with health technologies. And this demand for having health technology be available where it's needed requires that production and technology transfers flows in a way that it makes possible to have more production and more competitive prices. And on the other hand, we see a pressure for mainly for big drug companies to make accessible their products, but and accessible not only in quantity but also in price. But to do so, they face a challenge of cost production, you know, and so there is an issue that is always a discussion. So we need to find new producers of technology. Health products that will help in this purpose of making them available worldwide. And And to meet this task, there are different solutions. I mean, there are different tools. One tool is that the one that we are going to talk today is tools that are built after a political debate, international political debate and economic debate, mainly in the World Health Organization, and that led to the creation of two big platforms to connect innovators with those who are able to produce that innovation and distribute that innovation as they relate to health products. Mainly in the light of what was the HIV pandemic, and of course with the COVID pandemic, that was really challenging. How you make available the vaccines and the other countermeasures that were needed. So the idea was to connect. And I'm not going to explain how they do it, because we have the pleasure here to have a representative from the Medicine Public Pool and online, Erika Dueñas, who was the managing responsible WHO staff member running what was this global platform called CTAP. But to see how this in practice worked and what was the effects for those IP holders that have participated, those innovators that are being willing to be part of this ecosystem, we also are honored to have representatives from two universities and a research center, the CSIC, the Research Center of Spain. The National Spanish Research Center. Council. Well, that's a big name. Yes. I can say it better in Spanish, but I go to English and I'm completely lost. And we have the Chilean University that also represent the side of innovators in Latin America. And they will work with us on how is the process, how you can participate, what are the type of licensings, what are the challenges. And on the methodology, how we are going to work, we're going to have presentations of up to 15 minutes. We encourage that those are 14 minutes. And then we will have an open round table with you, so we can make all the questions and make all the comments, because at the end, the purpose of this event is not only to make aware, licensing professionals in how this work is, but also to get your inputs on how can we improve. And with nothing else to say, I would like to leave the floor to Erika Dueñas, who is a manager of IP for the World Health Organization, that will walk us through the experience of CTAP and the new TAP that has been evolved. Erika, welcome, bienvenida, you have the floor.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay, so thank you very much, Luis and Corporación Innovarte, for inviting WHO today to this important panel. Can you see my slides as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to talk with you today about the work that WHO does in relation to these interfaces between public health, innovation, and intellectual property, and of course focus on licensing as well. But I would like to share first with you, I cannot move the slides. Okay. So, as you mentioned in your introduction, Luis, why WHO is involved in relation to all these intellectual property issues or trade issues? It is because we want, our main mandate is to work on improving access and innovation in relation to health technologies as well. So and we know that as you can see in this picture, if we want to improve access to medical technologies and innovation, we need to think about different kind of policies to improve innovation and access. And as you can see there, of course, different dimensions, regulatory, quality, safety of medicines, innovation, but also intellectual property law, law management, and trade as well. So I'm going to, this is by the way, a picture that it is included in the trilateral study that was published together jointly by the World Intellectual Property Organization, the World Trade Organization, and the World Health Organization. So as you can see in this other picture, you will see that there are many intersections between public health, trade, and intellectual property. So all these policy domains like competition law, procurement, licensing, as you can see down there in relation to intellectual property, all these policies can affect innovation and access. So that is why we work in all these areas. And we need definitely a coordinated approach to take into account all these different variables. We believe also that scientific progress and advances in health technologies are very important and have contributed to the improvement of health outcomes. But as our Director General said many times, Dr. Tedros, that it's very good to have good technologies and science, but what the purpose of having these technologies if we cannot get it to the people in need around the world? So that is why we talk about timely global access, global and equitable access that is needed. And for that, I want to make reference to this very important global strategy that has been approved by all member states long time ago in WHO, that includes in their recommendations, and there are recommendations, more than 100 recommendations in this document, not only to governments and member states, but there are important recommendations also to scientists, to academics, to researchers, to private sector. And if you can see, for example, these are the 8 main pillars of this global strategy on public health, innovation, and intellectual property. You can see recommendations related to building and improving innovative capacity, to transfer of technology, which is the main topic of this conference, and also application and management of intellectual property in a manner that contributes to innovate and promote public health. So you have the links of all the documents that I'm mentioning in the there in the source. So this global strategy approved by all member states basically urged countries to strengthen efforts on this implementation, and it represents, as I said, some priority actions to be taken to promote thinking on needs-driven innovation and access to diseases that disproportionately affect developing countries. You will see, if you read the document, you will see that these ideas of patent pools or new ways, exploring new ways to promote innovation were already included in this global strategy since 2008. So, and now we have identified that, as you know, in WHO here in Geneva, we are discussing now this pandemic treaty. Member states are in this intergovernmental negotiation group, and you will see that all the discussions that are happening around technology transfer, around intellectual property, are very well connected with all these topics that were included in the global strategy. The problem with the strategy, it was basically that it was not fully implemented in all these years since 2008. The recommendations were not implemented by the different stakeholders for different resources, for different reasons. I mean, like lack of resources, etc. But member states realized I'm not going through the entire background of the global strategy, but member states realized that all these recommendations still valid today and are even more important after what we saw during the pandemic. And they decided to extend the plan of action of this global strategy until 2030, which is the end of the Sustainable Development Goals agenda as well. So the strategy was implemented very quickly in relation to application and management of intellectual property. The strategy basically states that there is a crucial need to strengthen innovation capacity and also the capacity to manage and apply intellectual property in developing countries, including using to the full the well-known TRIPS flexibilities or public health safeguards that are included in the TRIPS agreement. And during the pandemic, you probably saw this, but our Director General was very concerned about inequities, and he called many times member states to use all the tools they have in their hands in order to facilitate transfer of technology to promote access around the world. And that included, of course, voluntary licensing that we're talking in this panel. It includes also the different initiatives that happened at that time, discussions on waivers of intellectual property rights that were presented in the context of the World Trade Organization. All of these are the TRIPS flexibilities. WHO supports also member states in implementing all these TRIPS flexibilities. We work in collaboration. In this picture, you can see the three director generals of WIPO, WHO, and WTO. And in their last meeting, they decided also to work together. So we're working together at the technical level now to facilitate the implementation of these TRIPS flexibilities in all the countries. But of course, WHO also, during the pandemic, together with the former president of Costa Rica, launched the Solidarity Call to Action and this new mechanism, COVID Technology Access Pool, basically to realize global equitable access to these COVID health technologies that were needed. Through pooling of knowledge, licensing of voluntary licensing of intellectual property and data. And the Solidarity Call to Action was a call to different stakeholders to, for example, to technology holders to voluntarily share their IP, knowledge, and data through patent pools, to this CTAP mechanism. I see Javier from CSIC is there, so he will talk more in detail about these licenses, because we had some experiences of licenses that were given to the CTAP mechanism during the pandemic, including some licenses on vaccines by the end of the pandemic, unfortunately. But we pushed for all these mechanisms to facilitate access. Because what was the experience? What we saw during the pandemic, for example, in relation to voluntary licenses to vaccines? First of all, to patents, we realized that there were several patent applications on new vaccines. We heard sometimes that, oh, patents are not a problem for vaccines. We have identified very broad claims included in most of these patent applications. Patents were granted during the pandemic in record times. That is sometimes concerning as well, because we don't know the quality of the patent, substantive patent examination. There was lack of transparency at that time on all these patent landscapes, that we had to work on databases and do landscapes at that time. And In relation to licensing, there were some bilateral licenses, but we considered that these licenses included many restrictions, for example, on the geographical scope, because the licenses that were granted by some manufacturers were only limited to few manufacturers. They were not transparent. That means that we didn't know the content, and that create difficulties for WHO to use, for example, the COVAX mechanism at the time to distribute the licenses. Then there were definitely no licenses for WHO on the mRNA technologies. Even if we created a special hub or project on mRNA vaccines, we never received Moderna or BioNTech vaccine technologies to produce the vaccine. So that meant that we had to create this hub. We are helping countries to learn or to develop these technologies, but we couldn't use that during the pandemic because of lack of patent licenses. Then we also realized how countries
Erika,
solve the IP problem. Yes?
Your time is running out, so please,
Okay,
if you
I'm
could
going to
speed
finish
to
now. So just to mention
the licenses,
quickly
okay,
that I will share with you these slides, and you will see some examples of how some countries try to implement different legislative measures, including on compulsory licenses. And there are more forward-looking measures as well, like the ones that are discussing at the European Commission to introduce a union-wide compulsory licensing, etc. So, and just to finalize this, to mention that this is another publication which includes a roadmap of alternatives to access COVID-19 therapeutics. So this is a very good publication that we did together with UNITAID in order to explain that even, for example, if we manage to get through the medicines patent pool some voluntary licenses for some the key therapeutics, there were some difficulties of these licenses because of their limited geographical scope. So that is why we encourage countries to use all the other mechanisms that were available. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer questions later.
Thank you, Erika. Now I have the pleasure to give the floor to Elena Villanueva, who represents the Medicine Patent Pool, who will talk us about Medicine Patent Pool.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you, first of all. It's not working. So maybe this one. Now, yes. So first of all, thank you to the organizers for giving the space for this type of event to talk about health aspects related and licensing to be part of this panel. And also thank you to Luis for thinking about the Medicines Patent Pool and invite us to be part of this presentation and to be talking about the example of the Medicines Patent Pool as a mechanism for licensing. Since we are assuming most of you are not coming from the health background, I know some of you are, but not the majority, we wanted to give an introduction to what the Medicine Patent Pool is. Erika already introduced a little bit in the connection to CTAP, where you will see that the MPP has been also related, but let me start from the beginning, giving you an introduction. If I can see how this moves. Sorry for those online, the presentation is not moving, so we are waiting. Okay, now it's moving. So first, starting from the Medicines Patent Pool was created in 2010 with a concrete mission, vision and mission, which was increasing access to medicines and innovative treatments, specifically in the moment for HIV, which at the time was 14 years ago. We were still in the middle of what was back then a pandemic, especially in low and middle income countries. So the mission was to increase accessible access to those treatments through voluntary license. What it was which we get to call the public health-oriented voluntary licensing and technology transfer. What do we mean by that? What is the MPP model, the Medicines Patent Pool model? So what the Medicine Patent Pool does is to negotiate voluntary licenses from the patent holders, those companies that have innovative treatments that are needed all around the world, and facilitate voluntary license before the patent expire. So there are generic manufacturers that can produce and distribute those drugs in those countries that are needed that otherwise will not access them until the patent is expired. So with that, what we do is to accelerate access, facilitating that everyone needing treatment can access to it, but at the same time, when it's needed, we facilitate royalties where appropriate for the patent holder. So it's a win-win, could be a win-win situation for everyone. That is done through a type of licensing process, that's why it's called public health oriented. I will describe you some of the details of the license, but I think one of the important aspects to consider is keeping in mind that people living in low middle income countries are the priority, are transparent licensing, and a couple of more details that I will be sharing in a moment. What is the scope of work? It was, as I was saying, created in 2010 with the initial objective to increase access to new treatments for HIV, which at the moment was really a problem. Then seeing on the success that I will share in a minute that we achieve in HIV and the need also around the world, unfortunately, for quicker and faster access to hepatitis C treatment as well as tuberculosis, the mandate was expanded in 2015 to also cover licensing, voluntary license for those diseases, and then building on that in 2018 to other patented essential medicines with a strong focus on non-communicable diseases, including cancer, that, as you probably all know well or suffer well, is becoming a huge burden on around the world. And in some areas of the world, there is not availability, or if there is a challenge with affordability. In 2020, due to obvious reasons, we expanded the mandate to cover also technologies related for COVID, in which there was a big collaboration with the CTAP mechanism that was mentioned before. And then moving on from that in 2021, and based on the experience learned with COVID, the expansion to not only covering a freedom of operation licenses, but also technology transfer, starting with COVID vaccines. Here you can see a summary of the over 20 licenses that MPP has managed to get until now. You can see that we have licenses for HIV, also for viral hepatitis, long-acting therapeutics that are the present, but also the future of HIV treatment and prevention. Also, the first license we get for a cancer product with Novartis, with tuberculosis, which you see our collaboration also with the Public Research Institute, the Johns Hopkins University, and also for COVID-19 through and with collaboration also with CTAP, and also our first license, which has been signed a couple of weeks ago with the company Ferrin for a maternal health product for heat-stable carbetocin. This is an evolving portfolio of products. You will see some of the biggest pharmaceuticals of the world are collaborating voluntarily with MPP to facilitate access to products in low and middle income countries. Which are some of the key features of the MPP license? I think this is one of the widest question, and that keeps coming back to us. Well, most of our licenses are focused in low and middle income countries, although some of them are global licenses, especially those that have been developed in the CETA context, which has a broader mandate. They are non-exclusive licenses, so our objective is to promote competition and with that affordability. They are transparent license. All of them are published on MPP website. There's a mandate, and that's one of the reasons why they are considered public health license. They are quality assured. We have very strict quality assurance policies in which all our licensees or the licensees of our licenses have to comply with the WHO pre-qualification mechanism or another strict regulatory authority. They are obviously complementary to other mechanisms, as Luis was mentioning, that can be implemented by countries or others to facilitate access. We have a strong license management to monitor compliance and to prevent market leakage. And in some cases, and I think it's something in which MPP is moving forward more and more, is it can include technology transfer to accelerate development of generic versions and a bespoke license that keep evolving based on needs. We can come back to that if you have questions on that on the Q&A section. What is the type of support that we provide both to licensors and to licensees? Not to mention all of them, but some of the aspects. The direct support to the licensors is to make sure that we enforce the contract obligations on both sides. We provide quarterly updates to licensor of the status of the licensee implementation. We make sure to facilitate and to prevent diversion and prevention of those aspects. And to the licensee, the type of support we provide is organize quarterly face-to-face meetings with the licensees, and we provide in-country filing support, approval, and sell analysis, and also a very important aspect as well to make sure that we have the product available in countries is to provide technology and regulatory product development support to make sure that the product reaches the market, which is our end goal, among other type of support, as you can read here. And this is a slide in which you can see the over 50 generic manufacturers and product developers we work with. You can see we have partners around the world in low and middle income countries, but with a strong focus in Asia, specifically in India. This is something we are working on to keep expanding. I think that's one of the lessons learned of the COVID pandemic, in which we see that we need to increase our range of actors and to also promote local production and not to focus only on partners in one concrete area of the world, but I think as an evolution that we have all learned from the pandemic. And very briefly, if I can, the case of dolutegravir and TLD, because I think it's a very good example to explain how the licensing model has worked for health products and why it was a good idea or not. Without getting too technical on health aspects, as I know you are not all from the sector, dolutegravir was a drug that was approved by the FDA in the US in 2013 that became revolutionary for many different aspects. And it was included in the guidelines to treat HIV by WHO in 2016. But before that, even before it was approved by WHO in the guidelines, MPP managed to get a license from the originator, from BIF Healthcare. And that license covered countries home to 94% of the people living with HIV in low and middle income countries. Unfortunately, it's 94% and not 100%. That's one of the limitations of the license. And thanks to that license, the generic companies that got the access to the product could develop together with other partners a combination product, which is called TLD. And that combination drug was becoming the preferred first line of treatment in 2018. This might not tell a lot to you, but if we compare it with tenofovir, which was the previous first line drug recommended by WHO and authorities in the US and Europe before, this drug took 10 to 11 years to become available and to be able to scale up access in low and middle income countries since it was approved by the FDA. So that means since countries in the developed world could access, it was 10 years before countries in the developing world could access. So that was for tenofovir. In the case of dolutegravir, thanks to the voluntary license, it took only 5 years. We could get better at this to make sure that we all get it at the same time, but at least thanks to the voluntary license and not having to wait for the patent to expire, we could accelerate access to this drug in low and middle income countries. And some of the key features of this license, which obviously is considered one of the gold star license of the MPP, is the fact that MPP provides licensees to qualified manufacturers around the world. And those licensees can supply in the licensed territory only, so also to respect the terms of the license. Licensees must obtain approval from, as I was mentioning before, from WHO pre-qualification or from another stringent regulatory authority. And the most interesting part here is that sub-licensees have the right to combine this drug with others antiretrovirals to develop suitable new fixed-dose combinations. And that was the success that actually happened, becoming the first-line treatment for HIV in the developing world. This license was royalty-free in most countries. However, it included a 5–10% royalty in selected middle-income countries. And as all other licenses, it was fully transparent and available on the MPP website. And this briefly, and we can discuss more also in the question and answer time, briefly to explain the mRNA Technology Transfer Hub program that obviously a lesson learned from the pandemic as well is the need to establish vaccine manufacturing capacity in regions that had none or very limited one. So this program was created together with WHO and other partners with that objective, but also with the objective to build human capital that could get in charge of the regulatory and regulation and biomanufacturing in those regions of the world. As a result of this program, we have now more than 50 manufacturing partners that have been selected in these areas to receive the technology and to get also training and get better and use of and regulatory approval of the potential future products that will come into the market. And then moving forward and talking about the future, we have been talking about what MPP has been doing until now, the disease that we have been working on, the type of licenses that evolve from freedom to operate to more actually support with technology transfer as well. And we are also seeing from evolving from mechanisms and from working mainly with generics, big generics based in India to actually provide support for more local production on every area of the world. What we are also seeing is that we also need to work thinking long-term in upstream access commitments. What do we mean by that? We are seeing that most of the health products that are relevant to the world are often discovered at universities, but nobody is actually a university or public research organization like the one that we will be talking after me. And those products, in many cases, are not accessible or at least not timely accessible, as Erika was mentioning before, or if they are not affordable in low and middle income countries. And this, we believe there is an opportunity to include key language in the initial license when in the early stage phase of the development, so that there is that initial license include clauses that take into consideration access needs in low and middle income countries when commercializing with the private actor. So at the moment, MPP is working to support the inclusion of low and middle income countries' access terms in licensing and funding agreements for early stage health technologies. We are working with universities to include those access plans. And obviously without trying not to be prescriptive, trying to leave it very open to see every organization and every product might need different access plans, but making sure that those are at least considered early on, because we have seen the consequences of that not happening. I think COVID showed us that. And I think we are already achieving some successes, and some universities like the UCLA in the US has already committed to have those access plans in place. We have some other universities in Europe and public research institutes in Europe, in the US and in Europe. We are about to make public a commitment by the Institut Pasteur in France that will also commit to this. So I think this is the future of what we are be doing. And this is just an example template of the affordable access planning, which UCLA commit to including all of the agreements with research institutes or with private sector companies, in which within X months of receiving FDA or EMA approval of a licensed product, the company will be facilitating an access plan. The details of that will be up to the company and up to the institute to figure out. And I will leave it here to give space to the others to talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elena. Very interesting. Now I have the pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Javier Mayra. Javier is a PhD in chemical science with extensive experience in industrial property and international negotiation of agreement between institutions and company. Javier?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the presentation. So yeah, all right. Yeah, here we are. Okay, I work for the Spanish National Research Council, Consejo Superior de Investigaciones Científicas in the Spanish language, CSIC, right? So we are not a university, but we are an academic partner. That means that our main activity is scientific and technological research. A brief presentation about my institution. We have 123 research centers located all around the country, as you can see in this map. And And well, we conduct research in all scientific and technological areas. These are our numbers, annual numbers, I would say. So we protect more than 200, you can see here, more than 200 technologies per year. Around 150 are protected by patent application. And well, last year was particularly good for us, but I would say we usually sign around 80 and 100 license agreement with companies in order to transfer the rights of exploitation of our technologies to the productive sector. Sometimes when we do not find a company interested to develop and explode our technology, we create it, and we are creating about 10 spin-off companies per year. You see here in this graphic, around 33% of our technology transfer activities are related with human health. So we are quite, I would say, quite powerful in this sector. All right, at the beginning of 2020, the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic emerged, and the CSIC was committed that time to develop technology in order to contribute to improving the global situation of the pandemic, as any public research organization in the world. We also wanted to avoid dependence of Spain and Europe on third countries in the health sector, as we saw that happen at the beginning of the pandemic. All the materials and health technologies were coming from, especially from China. And we wanted to ensure that our technologies developed with public fundings reach health system and society in reasonable conditions and prices in any country in the world. So we established some conditions for transferring COVID-19 technologies that time. The first one was the scope of the license have to be in non-exclusive. We were going to sign non-exclusive license agreement to avoid not covering the demand for the technology due to the production limitations of the licensee. And that is very easy to say, but difficult to reach, right? Especially if the company have to invest in clinical trials. So what we did in that time with this kind of technologies, actually in one of the projects that we have, one of the vaccine projects, we signed a kind of limited exclusivity. So the licensee will have exclusivity in those territories in which it's able to cover the demand. But in those territories that they were not able to fabricate and commercialize the product, the CSIC could sign another license agreement, could license the exploitation right in those territories to a third party. And the company which was going to invest in clinical trial received royalties also for the exploitation of these third parties. Then the technology have to be manufactured in Spain to avoid dependency on health issues from third countries. And there were no impediment to manufacturing to other countries so that the technology reaches all citizens and countries in need. Well, in June 2020, CSIC researchers have already developed a new serological test for COVID-19. The tests were able to detect if the person has been in contact with the virus and have developed protection against the virus, if the person have antibodies against SARS-CoV-2, with a reliability close to 100%. The tests were tested in 2 hospitals here in Madrid, in La Princesa and La Paz. And the novelty of those tests were that the tests actually used a viral protein, protease, that from the virus, but it was not exposed in the virus. So in principle, the antibodies were not going to react against that protein, but they did. And So because of this protein have never been studied in diagnosis before, but it worked really very well. And later on, we saw it turned out that the tests were able to detect if the antibodies were a response to COVID-19 infection or were because the person had been vaccinated. So that was an advantage over other tests. So we licensed the test in non-exclusive conditions to a Spanish biotechnology company, Immunostep. They are located in Salamanca, 200 kilometers north of Madrid. And they started to produce and fabricate and commercialize the test, not only in Spain, but also in other European countries and some Latin American countries as well. But especially they widely commercialize it in Spain. Well, you can see here the press conference in which we announced the development of the test and the license agreement. Here we are in the Spanish TV. That time, the country really need good news related with the pandemic. And then that's happened, right, this press conference, that's happened in summer 2020. In March 2021, I was sharing good practices with all the European technology transfer offices in the TTO Circle meeting, which is a meeting organized by the European Commission in order that European research centers share good practices. I was sharing the case of the serological test. That was in March 2021. And after the presentation, both the Medicine Patent Pool and the World Health Organization contacted us, interested in collaborate with us in the commercialization of those tests. Elena was one of the persons who contacted me. Well, they explained us who MPP were, and also, they explained us about CETA, COVID-19 Technology Access Pool, and so on. They have been already explained in the session. And we started a negotiation with them. We actually negotiate the non-exclusive license agreement of the exploitation, the production and exploitation of serological tests to MPP in non-exclusive conditions. Well, I have to say that the negotiation was not a complicated one. Was issued most of the negotiation we have with private companies. I guess because I guess one of the objectives that we have as a public body are similar, than they have this kind of organization have. The negotiation was with MPP, but under WHO supervision. And MPP, according to the license agreement, MPP were going to look for companies that manufacture for countries that need this technology, and we'll be able to license the technology if the licensee manufactures or commercialize in high-income countries. They had to pay to the CSIC 50% royalties on net sales, which is a reasonable amount of money for this kind of technology, especially technology that have already been tested in hospital and doesn't need any investment. If the licensee manufacture or commercialize in low and middle income countries, they don't have to pay royalties, or it will not pay royalties to the CSIC. And from our standpoint, it is a win-win deal. The CSIC manufactures, the CSIC managed to market its tests in countries where it had not done so and did not have the capacity to do it. MPP and WHO bring COVID-19 technologies to countries that needs, and so an example to follow. And those countries receive the technology. So here, I think everybody win. This is the signing ceremony of the license agreement and the press conference with the president of the Director General of the WHO online. We were still on the pandemic conditions. Well, you can see here the news. The WHO and MPP announced the first transparent global non-exclusive license for COVID-19 technology, and the CSIC offers serological test to CTAP. the license agreement is public. You can find it in WHO website and also in MPP website. It's here. And well, that's happened. The license agreement happened on November 2021. And then in June 2022, MPP contacted us just to inform us that they have already sublicensed the technology to an African company, Biotech Africa. They were going to fabricate the tests for African countries. And then we signed within the framework of CETA, CSIC and Biotech Africa signing a material transfer agreement in order to send then the protein, the plasmid for the expression of the proteins. We also send then the protocol for the expression and purification of the proteins. I mean, we have to transfer all the knowledge, not material and knowledge to the company to be used within the scope of the license between MPP and the Biotech Africa, and in order to fabricate it for African countries. I have to say that the transfer of knowledge was more complicated here to Biotech Africa than to Immunostat, to the Spanish company. I guess because the facilities that they have in South Africa were not the same that we have here in Spain. Actually, we have to send the material twice. The first material that we sent to them, they were not able to reproduce the proteins. But well, later on, with after several months, they were able to fabricate the tests, and they are in Africa. And well, another positive things about this, and now there is a collaboration between our researchers and researchers from South Africa, which is also always positive. And well, as a conclusion, I would say that our experience with CETA was really very positive. The serological tests were actually fabricated and produced here in Spain by Immunostat. We received royalties from the exploitation, especially in Spain. There was some exploitation, few exploitation in some other European countries, but we received royalties that we have already invested in research as a public entity. And then with thanks to CETA, the MVP and WHO, our tests also reached some African countries, and we didn't receive royalty for that, but we received international credit, and that's also positive. And also my organization, being a public entity, not only the economical issues are important, but also social ones. So the experience has been positive. Okay, thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much, Javier. Now I have the pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Pablo Lobos Ruiz. Pablo is a biochemistry, and he is the Senior Executive of Innovation at the Vice President of Research and Development of the University of Chile, who will tell us about the experience of negotiating with CETA. Pablo, you have the floor.
Thanks, Luis. Well, it's a pleasure. Thanks for the organization to have the opportunity for present our experience. Well, I will present my presentation. So let me share the presentation. Can you see them? Okay. So I will start talking with explaining the scope of our institution, is the Universidad de Chile, and then I will talk about the experience related with MPP transfer, technology transfer. So our university is a public university, is the main and the oldest one university in Chile. Is as public university, we have 4 campuses, 1 hospital. And our structure contains 19 institutes and faculties. So in these faculties, we have near to 90 thematic centers that work in different areas, and more than 1,300 are the research teams that's working multidisciplinary and in all the research areas and knowledge areas. So it's a big university in South America, and the work of the research team is supported by 70 technology managers that allow to us at the Vice Presidency of Research and Development support the innovation process at institutional level. We have a team of near to 50 professionals working on R&D projects from discipline and artistic creation initiatives. Well, as comprehensive university, we have a comprehensive technology production. So in the entire spectrum of research and knowledge areas, we produce technologies that is grouped in 5. Obviously, medicine, biomedicine is one of the most important. Up to date, we have near to technologies, and that is very interesting because as public university, we have a strong production of technologies. So in our case, the university is focused in challenges.
Pablo, you're
like
breaking your
aging,
voice.
energy, this natural disaster, and many of the. Hello, can you?
If the sound is not coming clear.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Maybe if you close your camera, it might hear you better.
Okay, thank you. Well, as I said, the university had a strong technology production, more related with the public challenges. We are focusing in creating local technology with a global impact. So our global impact and the searching of global impact is based on the international global IP strategy. So our tech portfolio, in the case of patents, because obviously we have another technology secrets, another of technology asset. But in the case of patents, we pursuing to cover the main territories that related with the main markets of in the case of medicine, such as Europe, United States, obviously South America, and some Asian countries. In our technology transfer model, consider that the university is a technology generator. So we looking for association with technology recipient entities that could be public or private, through licensing, to looking for the massification of the technologies, and obviously receiving revenues by royalties. That led to us have more than license in 20 different countries, including international corporations, and these more than 200 licenses are considered for us as public university as a an export good from Chile. So we have a strong association with the National International Commerce Agency for Chile. In the last 10 years, we have very interesting numbers that's for the scenario of the South American university is very interesting because we have more than 45% of the technology transfer in the country universities. The licenses, as I said before, the revenues per year in the context of licensing contract, and the amount of benefits from R&D contract. So up to date, we have a rate of 30 patent application per year. So it's mainly of them are focused on biomedicine. So since the last 17 years, when the university is starting to implement research and innovation policies, we achieved some interesting milestones that we consider some of the top licenses cases with international companies. Many of them are focused in biomedicine. Other ones are focused in engineering, technology informations. And in 2023, the WHO license in the context of the pandemic emergency was very significant for us, milestone as a public university. In the case of the technology that we transferred to the MPP, that's the technology is result of many years of basic and applied science and immunology research for diagnostic and drug discovery against viral agents, including HIV and other interesting agents. That research is developed by the professor group, Ricardo Soto and Fernando Valiente, and the technology is based on in a neutralizing antibody quantification systems against the COVID-19, and the advantage is can be used in laboratory with biosafety level 2, so it's very affordable for the low-income countries. So in the 2021, we started with talks with WHO, and the process take near to 2 years, where we starting with a process of submission, sending technical reports, negotiation of the conditions that is very similar with the case of CSIC, non-exclusive, and well, in July 2023, WHO and Universidad de Chile announced the license of this technology. The technology was also licensed in non-exclusive to a spin-off that the professors found in 2023 also. And this spin-off is called Viral Tools. It's very interesting because they're looking for not only for human health, also with the agriculture and veterinary application from this technology. And some of our reflection about this mechanism is very interesting because we are a public university. So as public university, the public collaboration is an effective and natural medium for in our case, the culture of the academic and innovators and the experience of technology transfer to the public service and public organization is interesting, and we have experience. Also, we have in the case of the nature of the science and develop or research in South America allowed to us experience in working in low income scenarios. So our researchers are looking for how to implement technologies in that context. And obviously within our country, we have this kind of a scenario too. For a public university, this is an opportunity to extend obviously the portfolio to a new and explored territories that have some advantage, but some challenges that I will talk later. And since the university is working on many others global challenges, this kind of mechanism could be used in other fields. So climate change, disaster, and food security as a good complement for such example, the green patent marketplaces and other marketplaces use it for other challenges. So I think that the MPP is a leading one experience on this kind of mechanism. We have some challenges that make some particular difference with the case of CSIC. We are very interested into explore that the partnering and new possibilities to use this mechanism and also contribute to the innovation ecosystem. But obviously the implementation in the case of complex technology with expensive validation is challenges if we need to develop clinical trials or another validations is very complex. So is the tendency to offer this kind of technology is more related with the plug and play technologies, but obviously we are very interested in to explore to offer our portfolio in the case of drug and vaccines that we are already in development. So since because there is not the relation between the university and the MPP and is not the only connections, and because we are looking for contribute to the maturity of the ecosystems, it's necessary obviously increase the instrument at the pre and post agreement processes. So because in the case of South America, the opportunities for an example is small and medium enterprise based on technology, obviously, have some challenges in terms of alliances, maturity, and scalability. So that is very interesting to explore another complementary instrument along with the MPP process that seems to be very interesting for our university, and obviously we are available to keep the contribution in other fields.
Paulo, are you done?
Thanks all the agents and the organizer for that opportunity.
Well, thanks to you, Paulo. It was very interesting to hear the experience from the Universidad de Chile. Now we open the floor for questions and comments. No. Let me get you the microphone.
Thank you all for the presentations. Mark Wilson from the UK. Could I ask the lady from Medicine's Patent Pool how you deal with those organisations which maybe don't buy into the model. So it's a voluntary licensing arrangement. Are there challenges in bringing sort of everybody to the table? It's clearly, it's a very impressive story, a wonderful set of achievements. But one would imagine that of the large multinationals, some would be more sort of empathetic to the approach, would be more understanding, would think this was actually very helpful to have a broker type organization. Some might have more reservations. So I don't know if you could just maybe comment on whether or not that is a challenge and just how the organization has tried to deal with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question, because it is a challenge. We are here presenting results, but it takes years of negotiations. As Javier was saying, negotiating with some actors might be easier than with others. I think also MPP doesn't accept every license. I mean, we carefully select which products we are interested in license according to health needs. We do a careful criteria selection of why we need a health technology. First of all, as I keep saying, a public health need. So, and based on those, we start negotiation with companies. It takes years to get to where we want. It takes years to get a company to set to the table. And why they do that, there are many reasons. Obviously, you need to offer a license that is interesting to them from an economic perspective. In many cases, it's low-hanging fruit in the sense that many companies don't have the capacity or the interest to be present in every country of the world. So throughout the license, they get the possibility to get the product available all around the world without having themselves having to take care of that. The registration, as we know, is very difficult and time consuming, and they don't even have that capacity and personnel to do so. Through this license, they get that presence, they get royalties in some cases, in some don't, but at least the product is there, available. Pharmaceutical companies keep bringing new products to the market all the time. So once they have a presence, they could be a win-win. They could meet new distributors. So that's an interest. There is something we cannot, of course, not mention is the public pressure. Has been a lot of public pressure during negotiations in which a lot of civil society, as groups like Innovarte and others, are making a lot of pressure, governments as well, demanding that they want access to specific products. We are seeing that some of our license, unfortunately, as I mentioned before, don't include all the countries we would like them to be included. Sometimes some middle-income countries, especially in South American region, stay out of the license, unfortunately. And sometimes we have managed to add new countries to the license due to the pressure of the governments themselves asking for those products, and the companies have been more willing to then negotiate, or the situation has improved and they see it an interest for that. Also, I think the terms of the licensing, which we have a control of the licensee, we make sure that it's not going to be aversion, that there are not going to be problems with quality. All those things create some security and make an interest of the company to get to the table. And always not to forget that this is a voluntary mechanism in which they are willing to participate. So I will not say it's an easy. For some products, it's getting easier than for others. I think we are also seeing that in the context of HIV, I think the situation, the fact that at some point it was a pandemic, it has been an easier context than we might be facing moving forward when we talk about cancer or other cardiovascular diseases in which we want to continue working on. Hopefully I'm responding to your question with that, at least partially. Thank you.
Please, will you identify yourself when you make the question?
Thank you, Luis. Thanks a lot for the presentation. My name is Diego Duer. I live here. I'm a practitioner. The question that I have for you is, I haven't seen, maybe I lost something here, but I haven't seen the name of the World Bank, IDB, any multilateral institution. And I wonder if you're doing this by your own without any economic support, and also the political support that these big institutions can bring to you in order to speed up the process when you're negotiating with countries, for example, in Africa. Are you doing this? So the question is, are you doing this by your own, or are you getting support politically or financially by the IDB, the African Development Bank, the Asian Development Bank, those institutions? Thank you. Well, yes. To help you.
you're making a very good question. How does it's not working. Ahora? Okay. Now, the MPP is a UN-backed independent institution, non-for-profit. So that means it gets originally seated within the World Health Organization and UNITAID, and now it's an independent organization. So we don't get officially support from institutions like the World Bank that you were mentioning, but strongly, very closely politically supported by UN, specifically World Health Organization, WIPO, and others with which there is a close collaboration. Doesn't mean an economic collaboration, but there is in many other aspects, there is a lot of collaboration with WHO and WIPO. How does the MPP gets funded? It's mainly through public donor support, mainly from UNITAID, an institution, and also from some governments like Switzerland, Canada, and part of the work that I mentioned regarding the mRNA technology transfer program in Africa and in other parts of the world is done with the support of the European Commission and other European donors, for example. So in that sense, there is a support. Has not been much work done with World Bank and other regional institutions that you were mentioning that probably becomes a more close collaboration when we are talking about technology transfer. Traditionally, the type of factors that you have been mentioned is remarkably, I would say that this might be a more personal comment in which they have not been very interested in this type of initiative, and they have not done much of the work together with voluntary mechanisms. So even access to health medicine has not been a priority for these institutions, or at least have not developed that interest when we have knocked their doors.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, go for it. We still have 5 minutes for your question.
Thank you for letting me have a second question. So I think an interesting question for us as a community is, what have we learned from COVID and the different models and the different experiences that we all had? So maybe I could ask the gentleman from the University of Chile and from CSIC for reflections on timelines. So it's sort of in the sense of, if we were to do things again or step into that kind of situation in the future, are there things that you learned from your experiences, which are very positive and wonderful stories? Thank you. But other learnings for how we would do things quicker, potentially in the future. Thank you.
Yes, in our case, I have to say that we have introduced some new claims in our license agreements. So, for instance, we were talking before the session. I was talking with Elena about it. We have included in our license agreement the exploitation in low and middle income countries. Not right. I mean, if we have included in our license agreement model, right? Then when we negotiate with a company, you know, the company sometimes tell us, yeah, okay, this clause out, these conditions not. I want those are the conditions you want me to invest in your technology. But well, we are more concerned. I think before the pandemic, we were not very concerned about this kind of things. Now we try to license the health technologies in non-exclusive conditions. And if it's exclusive condition, we try to limit it, this exclusivity more or less. And we have included the low and middle income countries, the exploitation of low and middle income countries as a concern of our institution. Yeah, I mean, this is from our experience with COVID-19. I could say that at least this concern exists, and we have included in our models. Then, as Elena was saying, during the pandemic, there was quite pressure because we signed an agreement with in my institution. We were developing three vaccine projects against COVID-19. One of them, I mean, complete the preclinical trials, and we submit the project to the Spanish medicine agency. So I mean, but the thing is, yeah, I wanted to say, Oh, well, I have lost my my schedule. No, es que me he perdido lo que le estaba explicando, because about the COVID-19 vaccine with example, I wanted to say something about this. Yeah, well, and we were able, yeah, I remember now. I wanted to tell you, we negotiate with a Spanish company, a company who wanted to have the exclusivity for the exploitation of that vaccine, that particular vaccine, and the company accepted this limited exclusivity because the situation forces them to do it. I mean, there was a really big social concern about this during the pandemic. Now, if we have to negotiate with a company, the situation, I mean, usually the company have, during the negotiation, they have a really good position to negotiate, because there's too many projects around the world. And if they choose our project and they're going to invest money, sometimes it's not easy for us to settle down some specific conditions in, but what we were trying to do it before, more commonly than before the pandemic. Yeah. How compatible is this? We have people in the audience here and abroad that have some doubt whether
We can hear.
you cannot.
No.
Okay, I'm here.
Yeah.
No, my question is, thinking that people sometimes have the prejudice that this type of open licensing without exclusivity will conflict with the development of an enterprise or the possibility of doing other business. How do you think that is that a real concern? Does really affect negatively, or this a positive impact for your business?
You mean if we put the pattern in this kind of platforms, right?
Yes.
And if it can affect the negotiation with a company for the exploitation of it, I think if the technology doesn't require a big investment and clinical trials and so on, it's easy to combine both, because it's very easy to work with non-exclusive conditions. But if you need a company to invest in clinical trials, then it's more complicated. So we have to find the conditions that the company will be comfortable with those conditions. Because if the company is going to invest a lot of money, they have to have profit and have something, have an advantage over the rest of the companies of the sector. But at the same time, we have to be able to put this technology in the kind of health platform, because it's really necessary, right, for an equalized exploitation of health technologies and so on. So I think this is something that have to be discussed, and we still have to find a solution for this kind of technologies. Yeah.
Thank you. Pablo, how has affected, University of Chile to have participated in CTAP of the WHO?
In our experience, it's necessary to understand the pandemic emergency. So that's meet this instrument with the university entirely mobilized into contribute to the pandemics within the country. So I think it's interesting to see that experience and search for the increase the collaboration in a regular or non-emergency context. So we have similar issues with the CSIC, but I think that they will have another conditions. First, in the case of South America, normally we are looking for the bigger markets. So is the knowledge and technology flux moved from South America to North and Europe, and so the accessibility to potential partners in low-income countries in Africa or in Asia is very difficult. So I think that in our case, the opportunities that offer the United Nations supported patent pools like the MPP is very interesting. But also we are interested in to contribute with our ecosystems because we consider that the association with the small and medium enterprise spin-off related with our universities could be very helpful to contribute along with the license to the low and mid-income countries. But I think that the connections on the possibility of internationalization of those ecosystems require more instruments, require more agreement, maybe in the discussion, the possibility to reach multilateral agreement in using another instrument, not only the WHO, also the World Bank, and another effort could be necessary to set up the innovation ecosystem at the same level of the capability of production of technologies and also technical assistance to exploit this opportunity.
Thank you, Paulo. Well, we have come to the end. Erica, you want to have the final words? We haven't heard you. Final comment?
Yes, thank you, Luis. Maybe just a quick comment on some of these questions about the limitations of this mechanism. I think the big achievement from the CTAP experience was that we managed to get, from the public health perspective, of course, we managed to get some worldwide licenses, and as very well explained by the University of Chile and also CSIC, there were good precedents for the negotiations. At the beginning, CTAP started negotiation only with universities or early stage technologies, and then also with CSIC, public health institutions. But then at the end of CTAP, we managed to get licenses from also public sector, which was good as a precedent, and also worldwide licenses for a final vaccine, for example, from Medigen, which is a company. And that was good. That is why WHO now is launching HTAP, the Health Technology Access Pool, that will go beyond COVID-19. So, and it can be for pandemics or for other health needs. So we are in the process of defining this new initiative that was announced already by our Director General. So just these things, and maybe just a final comment on one of the questions about the limitations, because as someone said, some of the participants said, what can we do if other companies don't want to join? Well, we cannot do too much. We were working in WHO during the pandemic in order to discuss what additional incentives we can give to the companies to join. So we publish a document as well in relation to these new incentives. We are ready to continue the discussion with member states and other stakeholders about what additional incentives we can give to the companies or to the technology holders in order to join these initiatives. But as I said during my presentation, we cannot do too much. Those are voluntary initiatives, and in our view, that needs to be combined with the other tools that countries have in order to promote access and transfer of technology. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We thank the audience. We hope that this has been food for thought. There is an alternatives for traditional licensing. There are two big platforms that can bring opportunities to innovators, to your clients that want to build new markets and get international support. And thank you very much to you. Thank you to Erika, Pablo, Javier. Muchas gracias al traductor también y al equipo que nos ha apoyado con que nada haya pasado mal. Y al equipo de Innovar Teles Chile, a todos. Punta del fondo.